Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. This week's episode of Stop Writing Alone is sponsored by Sam Kimberly Designs. Sam is a polymer clay artist. She creates art, jewelry, Christmas ornaments, and it's all amazing. To hear an extensive description of what Sam has been up to and why you might find her name familiar, head to episode 96 or hop on over to the Stop Writing Alone Instagram account where I shared my awesome cardinal ornament for you to see. And then head on over to samkimberlydesigns.com. But remember, Kimberly is spelled with an E at the end. Sam's having some Black Friday sales this week, so don't miss out. Head on over today. The link will be in the show notes. And thanks again, Sam, for sponsoring this week's episode. Now let's get to it. Hi, this is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. Well, the week in December means a week so far without a Happy Campers meeting for me and for all of the other happy campers. And while that may not seem like an incredibly long time, we had gotten into the habit of seeing each other every single weekday for the last 2 months, October and November. And for many of the group, that was true in August, that was true in July, that was true in June and April. So a whole solid week without any regular Zoom call meeting was feeling like we missed each other. So I wanted to get the group back together and just ask them how they felt about their NaNoWriMo experience and their Happy Campers experience as a whole, since we're coming to the end of the year, and this is the first year that this was offered, the first year that any of us had done this, including me, and I wanted to share that with you this week. So it's not the entire Happy Campers crew, because I did only hold one meeting to have this recording, so I couldn't accommodate everyone's schedule. But who you'll be hearing on this call right now is Susie Taylor, Jackie Dana, Audria Martin, Jamie Angevine, Tammy O'Quinn, Amy Strong, and Chris Gransinski. And all of their contact information and where you can find them on social media will be in the show notes, but also at the end of the episode, they will let you know where you can find them. But I can't wait. I know some of these people you have met before in previous episodes where we've had the Happy Camper recap. For the first time that we did it, we also had a podcast episode devoted to our experience of doing the 3-day novel over Labor Day weekend, which we do touch on in this episode as well. But there are some new Happy Campers that you may not have heard before, and I can't wait for you to hear from them now. So without further ado, here is my crew.
All right. So guys, I just want to thank you all for coming. It's not everybody, and I knew it would be an impossibility to get everybody to one call, but I did want to do some sort of recap, celebration, and just discuss everything that you guys accomplished over this year, really, but in the last couple of months through the Happy Campers with your NaNoWriMo projects, and share it with the Stop Writing Alone community.
And before I get started talking to everybody that's done NaNoWriMo before and, has a previous experience to sort of compare this to, I wanted to talk to those of you here who never did it before. And my first question would be, why this year? Why suddenly now did you decide like, that's it, I'm doing NaNoWriMo? Yeah, I guess that's a really good place for us to begin, because so many people see it come and go every single year. This year I'm going to do it. And you finally decided for yourself you're going to do it. And Susie, I know you're one of our first timers, so why don't we get started with you?
I had you guys.
Yeah. Do you think you would have done it if you weren't with the group?
No. Oh, absolutely not.
Are you happy
No.
you've done it?
If I hadn't had you, I would not have done. I would never have even tried this.
Had you heard about it before and just decided like, that's not for me? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd heard of it before and kind of thought about it maybe, but then I thought, oh, there's no way I could do that. And, why would I, just to prove to myself that I couldn't do it,
Right.
So, but this group is the sole reason why I decided to try it this year.
And having gone through the month, how do you feel about it now? Would you do it again?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I still, even though we've had the discussion of, all your words count, I still kind of feel like I didn't do what I should have, that shoulda, woulda, coulda thing.
Okay.
But I still feel really confident that I wrote 50,000 words that I could count in November with my arm in a sling. If I can do that, I can do it again.
For sure, without question. Yeah. So Susie, for anybody that's listening, and I did a terrible thing and I didn't have you introduce yourself. Can you tell everybody why your arm was in a sling, or what you're talking about there? It's not just like a personal challenge.
No, I had my right shoulder replaced on October 26th. And so I had to keep my arm in one position to allow the muscles to heal. And so I wasn't allowed to use my right arm at all, which is my dominant arm. And so I found myself trying to type with one hand, and there's no way I could actually write with a pen and paper, because I would not be able to read it. But I did a lot of typing, obviously, with just one hand, because I wasn't allowed to move my right arm at all. That's why. And I look back and I think, why was I worried that I wouldn't be able to do this? Because I had you guys.
Yeah, that's
sure
awesome.
I was going to accomplish it.
So, and Susie, you've been in the Happy Campers Club not since the beginning, since the summer?
Since June, yeah.
Since June. And so what has that done for you? You say that it gave you the confidence of going into NaNoWriMo and everything, but why do you think that is?
I've never been in a group of writers before. I always kind of felt like I was out there on my own. And I knew that you had started the Happy Campers in April, and I thought, I'm just not that type of a writer. I can't do that. And then I thought in June I actually started to really concentrate on my blog, and that's when I thought this would be the perfect group to really keep me focused on that. And it was. It was the perfect group to keep me focused on making sure I wrote every week for my blog, and making sure that I tried some things that I'd never tried before. The Friday writing prompt parties, I had never done any writing prompts before.
That's right. Yeah.
With something just out of my head. And that was eye-opening to me, to realize that I could make up something out of my head with a prompt in 20 minutes, and it could be pretty okay.
Yeah, you had some pretty amazing stories. I know Jackie was in almost every meeting with Susie, and I don't know who else was. Maybe Audrey was in a couple of the meetings with Susie too. Susie had some pretty badass stories for someone who's never done prompts before. It's really, really some great stuff. So
for someone who doesn't write fiction very often, or hadn't been writing fiction very often, that's the really astonishing thing, right? when you're writing nonfiction all the time and you jump into a group that's doing fiction and doing sort of on the spot prompt writing and sharing, and you can write stories that are that compelling and interesting with characters and plot, that's quite an accomplishment, because I've been writing fiction for a very long time and I find that entirely challenging. So I don't know that I would even have had the courage to try it if I didn't write fiction regularly. So props to you, Susie. That it's a huge accomplishment.
It's good stuff. Yeah. So I'm curious, thinking of so Susie gained the confidence being around writers and being in the conversation. She said, now NaNoWriMo, it seems like it's part of some, the things that I can do. For everybody else that wasn't a first timer for NaNoWriMo, how did the experience of being with a group of people make this different for you? I mean, I think I've mentioned it before in the podcast. I've mentioned it to you guys before. One of the great things about NaNoWriMo to me has always been that it is the place where you find other people. But for anybody that's not familiar with what we were doing, we were actually having like face-to-face Zoom calls 5 days a week. So we were literally seeing each other every single day. So how do you think that that changed your experience of NaNoWriMo for this year compared to other years where you may have done and tried the experience?
So I will speak for someone who's had a Nano account for 11 years and has only ever attempted it one time. And that, I want to say, was 4 or 5 years ago. And I think I may have gotten 20,000 words in the month. So even though this wasn't my first attempt at it, I was still fairly fresh because I'd never actually really done it before.
Like the win, the quote unquote win. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So, so I think being part of the group not only made me like stay on track, but I think having the group give each other our accomplishments and knowing that there were other people doing it with you. I didn't participate in the calls only because my goal was a little different than everybody else's. And I didn't want, I know some of the calls were prompt calls and I didn't want the distraction of what I was focused on. However, being part of the group is what made me continue to keep writing and hit the goal.
Yeah. Cool. And Amy, when was the last time that you did NaNoWriMo?
If you give me one moment, I can look on my Nano page and tell you, but I want to say, it was 3 years ago. Let me look.
Cool. Yeah, I'm more than curious if it's like, if you thought you might never do it again and,
Oh, I thought
it wasn't, so every year it was sort of like, there it is again.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do it. No.
Okay. Yeah.
Nope. Never did. Let's see. So my last project was, even longer, November of 2012.
2012. Wow.
And, and I did even less words than I thought I did. 8,129.
And that was, so you did it once, you did it in 2012. Every year, kind of go through the ceremony of, this is the year I'm going to do it, but not till now. And how did you do this November?
So I topped out at 50,075 words for Nano, but then I did an additional, only a couple thousand on something else. The goal was 83 because of my Millwordy challenge that I'm doing. And I'm still proud of the fact that I've never written that many words in a month before.
Heck yes. Yeah.
So I'm happy.
I mean, you went from a previous number of under 10,000 words to over 50,000 words. Fascinating. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's this, and it kind of piggybacks off of, we all did the 3-day novel together for Labor Day. So that kind of, here we go. I got to mute.
While Amy mutes for a moment, I just want to chime in here in the editing room and let you know what that mill-wordy thing is that she just mentioned, because I'm not sure I mentioned it on any of the episodes before, because when Amy mentioned it and said, does anybody want to do mill-wordy with me, and she told us what it was, I dove under my desk. So mill-wordy is a challenge to write 1 million words in a single year's time. And I don't think there's I don't think it has to be January to January. I don't think there's any solid calendar associated with it, except that it's 1 calendar year for you. And so when Amy found out about it, she decided that she would begin it when she started this year's NaNoWriMo, so that her mill-wordy challenge would go from November 2020 to I guess the end of October in 2021. So that's what she was talking about. She's just killing it. She's also the person, if you did hear the episode about the 3-day novel, she is the person that brought that contest to our attention, and we all sort of blindly jumped in and said, sure, let's try it. So she's always got her eye out looking for the cool stuff. And if you've been following my Instagram, Amy is the one responsible for all of the chat about the Kanban boards. So but let her finish up now. She got the dogs handled, and let's hear what she has to say.
So I have 5 dogs, and when the neighbor's dog barks outside, all my dogs feel like they have to bark.
Yes.
Sandy is always the first one. So back to what I was saying. All of us doing that, and me doing 27,000 words in 3 days.
3 days, yeah.
3 days. It kept going back to, look, if you can do 27 in 3 days, how are you not going to do 50 in 30? So that's kind of what kept me going along the process.
For sure. Yeah, I think that 3-day novel was a huge inspiration for a lot of us. Those of us that did it, and even those of us that didn't do it but saw everybody else do it. It's like, what was just possible in 3 days? Like, what just happened? I did not think I was capable of doing that before doing that. So, I mean, Amy's face is all.
No, I didn't either. And I think I did more than what I thought I would do.
Right.
And knowing I only had 3 days and sticking to the schedule that I'd made for myself is what got me to the 27,000 words.
Right.
But it's not, and that one, the writing room was open, and we literally came in, and you knew if you wanted to write, go to the writing room and someone's probably going to be there. We didn't talk. It was just the camaraderie and the support of knowing that there's someone there if you just, you're writing together.
Yeah.
Even though you're, in Connecticut or Missouri or wherever, you're still together there to write together.
Yeah, that was something else. Cool. How about the rest of you guys with this nano versus other nanos, or just the experience of not writing alone anymore in general?
Well, this is Audria. I just want to echo what Amy said. I have done nano before. I think I've done it 7 times, and I've won twice. This is my 3rd time winning or getting that 50,000 words completed. And at one point this year, I was planning to give up. I had obligations at work that I knew were going to steal a lot of my free time that I would spend writing. And I was trying to be realistic, but watching you guys steam through this and encouragement that everybody shared amongst each other and gave to each other. And, if you're only going to do 20,000 words, that's great. If you do 15,000 words, it's 15,000 more than you did before and all that. Right. Just listening to that was just inspiring for me. And so that kept me, well, I guess I can do 800 more words today. I've got a lunch hour I could use that's not a meeting. So that helped me to actually finish where I had planned on and given myself permission to give up. And so it was great writing with a group of people. And I've done it before, like I said, the community and the tribal feeling that you get in November, knowing that millions of people across the globe are attempting this crazy wacko thing is great. But having real people that you know who are chatting and encouraging each other, it was the best part of this year's Nano and what I'm just thankful for.
Yeah, and I like that you used the word permission, but it sort of triggered in my mind the opposite, because you were saying you were giving yourself permission to give up. And when we all saw that happening that week, and it wasn't even like, there wasn't valid reason. You had gotten this enormous project all of a sudden landed in your lap that was unexpected. We had that conversation of giving yourself permission to take like a couple of days off, like just taking off today, the next day, to focus on work and not think about the writing at all is okay, and doesn't have to translate into giving up for the month, because that's like a thing that I think most of us feel like, oh, if we miss a day, it's over. I'm not winning this year and I can never turn back. And I feel like that was really interesting for me to see sort of the relief that you got from that idea of like, just stop for a couple of days, focus on work, and then come back. And then you came back like so much stronger. So what was that? Had you considered that before we had talked about it, just taking a couple of days?
I had not considered that, actually.
Yeah.
My first gut reaction was to just give up, but taking those few days and knowing that you guys were like there, whether I continued or whether I said I'm bowed out. I mean, whether I bowed out or not, that was comforting to me. So when I did take those few days to just reevaluate and see what I could do, it was I don't know what the right word is, but it gave me like hope, and it was like a shining star that it's okay if I stop here, but it's okay also if I just eke through, if I am able to fit some time in there. I have a group, a community that is supportive either way, and that was great.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Right.
And
because that could be a thing that happens in NaNoWriMo. There is that judgment thing of like, you're not keeping up. And but yeah, we're like, whatever, if you're showing up, we're here. That's great. So Chris, I don't want to forget about you. Sometimes without the picture, I feel like the person isn't there, but I know that you're in the corner here. You were my 6 a.m. buddy on Tuesdays. I could almost always count on Chris to be there in the morning for the super early write-in, oftentimes earlier than I was there. What was your whole Nano Happy Camper experience like this year, in contrast or comparing to times before?
Well, I had never done Nano before.
You are a non-nanoer. I was wondering. Okay, you're so prolific in your writing in many different ways, but you hadn't ever taken the Nano challenge before.
No, I hadn't done Nano before. No.
Okay, cool.
So that was all new to me, and I was in 3 different groups. I was in a CAP program with Jamie and Susie, and Sam. So I had 3 groups kind of simultaneously, concurrently, whatever. So I had this group, and I had the Artist's Way, the CAP group, and they all kind of piggybacked on each other. So like, we'd have a goal for CAP, Happy Campers, into like, there was that one week when I totally confused everybody. I was like,
I lost you for a second, but there was that one week where I was confused about how many words you were going to write, because you said you had a word count for Sam, you had a word count for us.
Yeah. So, but I had never, like Susie, I'd never been with a group until this group.
Hey, it's me from the editing room again. Chris's audio was jumping in and out. So, yeah, I just wanted to come in and do a quick synopsis of the thing that he says next. I'm not sure if you caught it coming into this bit, but Chris was involved with 3 different sort of accountability groups at the same time. He was in the Happy Campers group. He was in Sam Kimberly's book club when we were reading The Artist's Way, which tends to be, not necessarily an accountability group, but there's a ton of creatives in there, and the conversations get into the things that we're doing, and we're trying to work on lifting each other up and encouraging each other there as well. And then he was in Sam Kimberly's CAP group, which is her smaller group accountability sort of coaching program that she does. So he was getting encouragement from all over, but to get the conversation going with working writers, he said that he wasn't necessarily getting that in all the places on the same level that he was with the Happy Campers. But in a minute, he's going to go into talking about how that may have been the influence for him to go into NaNoWriMo this year, but also one of the great values that he did get from this group, which is doing the writing prompt parties, which he was awesome at. So I'm going to let him go from here, and I think you should be able to follow.
This group really possibly would have done Nano without the group, but I'm going to say probably not. Not really out of my comfort zone, because the prompt parties were like, that was my house. I used to do flash fiction, so that was fun. That was the day that I looked most forward to, was getting something prompts.
Yeah, you're another one that on Fridays honestly, everybody that shows up for Friday prompt day, the stuff that you guys were writing, I think I've told you a couple of times, I would walk away from that meeting, go into my living room, and just say to my husband, I'm like surrounded by these amazing writers. It is bananas what these people are coming up with in 20 minutes and reading to me. And I know, like that's one of the joys of doing prompt parties, is that I know there's no way that you were like working on this story beforehand and showed up and like, yeah, I just wrote this in 20 minutes. It's like, no, the prompts we're doing are way specific. You had to have written it in like when I had the timer on, and then everybody would start off with be like, yeah, this is like just the first draft, and excuse me for how terrible this is. And then you'd begin, and it would be like unbelievable stuff. I mean, really, really fantastic. It's clear. It was always clear to me, Chris, that was definitely your wheelhouse, because you did not only like exude joy in your readings, but your stories were just like, yes, I've been waiting for this to work with. It just seemed like every time you got a prompt, you were like, and you'd go running with it. So I love it. That's fantastic.
Between the talk show, my audio is probably going to cut up here, but I was just saying, between that one with the Undertaker and the Hitchhiker, those were
that one. Honestly, the Undertaker and the Hitchhiker. I don't know if you've only read that in that meeting, right? Have you shared that anywhere else?
No, it's only been in that meeting.
Only in that meeting. For anybody that hasn't heard Chris's story of the Undertaker and the Hitchhiker, that one had me like crying, laughing, and that was just really good. That was a good story for sure. But oh yeah, here comes Susie's like, yeah, that one I remember too. That was great. But thank you, Chris.
Magic Gloves was also pretty good.
The Magic Gloves, everybody came out with very strange. What's funny to me is that I will remember what everybody else wrote, and I have no idea what the heck I wrote for each of these stories. I'm like, oh, that's the story where Chris did this. Oh, and Heather's Magic Gloves like haunts me to this day. But like, what the heck did I write that day? I have no idea. Oh, that's great. So Jamie, how about you? I know that you had tried Nano before. but you had, well, let me just preface this for anybody that's listening. Jamie works on a Christmas tree farm. So she knew, her family has a Christmas tree farm, so she helps out through November. She knew that taking on a November writing challenge was going to be a unique experience. So going in, you knew you had like half the month at best to work on this. And you still decided to do it anyway, which was, we had all talked about, like, we'll totally understand if you don't want to do it, but you went and did it anyway. So what was the experience like? Why did you say, I'm doing it anyway? And I'm going to not bury the lead and say that you did do it. You got your 50,000 words. It was a flipping miracle. So go ahead, Jamie, let us know, how did it go?
So I did Nano once in 2017, got about 25,000 words, and then I didn't do it again. What I wrote was a big mess, and I never went back to it. It's just kind of there, and I have the ideas, and okay. So then fast forward to this year when I joined Happy Campers, and it's been just unbelievable, just amazing. It's just crazy to think we didn't know each other April. I didn't know most of you before April 1st. And in the time period now, it's just like amazing, just this like fellowship of mostly women, but we have Chris and
Chris and Sean joined us, in the fall.
And, so basically I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to do Nano this year because it's the pandemic year. There's all this crazy stuff going on that I knew the tree farm would be really busy. And then at some point, and then I'm like, well, maybe I'll try it, but I'll just put a pretty lower goal. Like my goal won't be 50,000. It'll be 25,000 again. Or maybe I'll just say, maybe let's do more than last time. So just a little above 25,000. Right. And I don't know. And then the 3-day novel happened. And that was supposed to be around 30,000 words in 3 days. I only wrote about 9,500. So I was feeling like big, I just, whatever. But at that moment, that was the most cohesive and the longest short story I've written that was actually a beginning, middle, end, like a finished piece. Because my Nano piece before that was not. That was just like a big mess, like I said, of things started and kind of not sure where. So I was like, okay. But then seeing what other people like Amy and Jackie and people that did more than 20,000 words in 3 days. And I was like, you know what? I think the first part of November, I have a few weekends. I'm like, I bet. Like I could see that it was possible. Like I literally would not have thought it was possible.
Right.
For people to do that. Like I didn't even know about these kinds of challenges. Like why would anyone do that to themselves? And then seeing that people did it and then seeing what I could even accomplish, which I had never done. I've just been concentrating on Flash and sort of the idea of books for, novels like started and whatever. So then I suddenly just made up my mind, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I had the goal to try to finish by the 20th because the farm officially opened the 21st, I believe, whatever Saturday that was. And I didn't finish till just about midnight on the 23rd, but I did. And I got, the 50,000 words for my actual novel. And absolutely, I would not have attempted. I mean, I wouldn't have tried the 3-day novel would have been a laughable. Who would ever do that? And how could anyone do that? Before I was in this group and then seeing people accomplish that. And then like what Audrey said, just knowing like if things got crazy and halfway through the month, I'm like, you know what? I'm just so tired. No, you guys would have been like, but look what you did so far. This is amazing. It wouldn't have been this judgmental, like I have to be secret or hide it or feel bad about it. It was like, well, I still did more than I thought I did and would do. And then I actually did, win the challenge or whatever, So that was, I would, without a doubt, would not have even probably attempted this year if I wasn't in this group, because it would have been like, oh yeah, the thing, like I said, you know about Nano, you tried it before, and I'd be like, not this year. And so many people have, like said, valid reason for different reasons to be like, not this year. Let's take it easy. Let's kind of whatever. But I was like, and the great thing is knowing like everyone is there to root each other on. It's nothing like, that's what we just want everyone to succeed in whatever way they can. So that's what's been amazing for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because Audrey brought it up and even Chris is talking about having all the different people in the different groups, but to have the writers in the conversation and that we're all on that same page of, yes, there's this challenge and yes, it would be great to get the 50,000 words, but there are other ways to win and succeed. And we're just in it. We're just in it together regardless. So yeah, but you did amazing, Jamie. And I love that you mentioned that distinction of what you accomplished in the 3-day novel, that 9,000 words, that 9,500 words is a cohesive story, right? Because lots of people will sit down for NaNoWriMo and blast out 9,000 words, but is it a cohesive story? Like, there is a difference. So when you can accomplish that, it does feel like, all right, I'm going somewhere. So that's awesome. Really, really good stuff. Tammy, I know that you may have to jump out early, so I just wanted to know, how was your experience this year? How you've done Nano before? I'm correct about that. You've tried Nano before. Have you won Nano before?
I have always been a big wiener, but never a big winner when it comes to Nano. But I will say, I got more done this year than I've ever gotten done. And actually, overall, for the whole year, more writing than I've ever got. This is a sad statement, maybe, but more writing than I've ever gotten done in my life. And I've been trying to, finish this silly novel for longer than I care to say, but it's been years. And, here's the deal. When you're on your own and you've got no accountability, it is so easy to find something else valid and important to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is so easy to say, this is not my full-time job. This is not something that's contributing to my family, whatever, right? But it's your dream. And you just keep having to tell yourself that, but it is harder to do when you are isolated and alone. And let's add to the fact that, COVID came along and we're even more alone than we ever imagined was possible. Right. So this year on a couple of levels just got me through a lot of my defeatist thinking around whether I can work this in. No, it's not going to be perfect. No, I'm never going to, meet my aspirations of writing even 1,000 words a day, most likely, full time until, while I'm currently employed. But that doesn't mean that I can't get something done every day. So I feel like on that front, and then also just, this year, there were several of us, working from home, and we're the only person there, and so it was weird because you couldn't get out. So I really think just having a place to go to have a conversation, not even writing related, but just, fellowship on the one hand, but accountability on the other. I mean, hugely helpful on both the writing front and the personal front this year. So I'm a big fan. You'll probably never get rid of me. We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. It's like we're all already whining about what happened to our meetings. Why have we stopped? Who cares about Santa?
Well, that kind of connects to something that I think you just said that I think is really important, because you're right. All of us have valid reasons for putting our writing aside. Like reasons that any other person would be like, no, you're right. You should stop writing right now. Like Audrey had the situation of a huge work project. She had to actually stop writing to focus on her full-time day job, but didn't have to be for the rest of the month. It just had to be during the work project. So Tammy, and this is for everybody. A lot of us have made those different decisions throughout the year. And I think it is a credit because we've had each other. We've had to show up for the meetings or what have you, that it's like, oh, wait, I do also have to show up for my writing. How has that, I mean, Tammy, you kind of like addressed it here in how much it has helped throughout the year to continually show up for your dream. What do you think would have been the outcome if you had given yourself permission to put it aside, particularly this year?
Well, sure. And given myself permission not to do this group, because I mean, I could have easily said, I can't do this. I can't, take a weeknight to get on with, my fellow writers and do an hour's worth of writing. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot at the time that you're planning it, but then life gets in the way. But I just think it has really let me know that, and I think this is true of all of us. I think we all realize after this journey that we can just meet ourselves where we are.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you don't have to be the person next to you.
Right.
We've got every level on here, different, levels of accomplishment and places in your writing. Jennifer was brand new to it this year. So, I mean, it's all over the map. And I think we've just given ourselves permission to just meet yourself where you are. And how many times have we said this year, or maybe I've said it, that this is just saved us all so much money in therapy, right? Because you can get on here and talk about this is what's getting in the way. And it doesn't have to be writing related, right? But it impacts your writing life, because this is a very personal experience. Writing is a personal experience. So there's going to be times when you need to talk about what's going on just to get it off your chest so you can move forward. And there's always a safe place to do it here, and the encouragement to take the next step, right? Don't stop, don't freeze, don't get into a fetal position. We will help you. We will hold you up until you can hold yourself up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Preach. I love it.
Yeah. And then the dragon porn is just like, that's a freebie.
It's just a good
Sorry. You knew I was going to work that in.
Laugh whenever possible.
Say that.
Tammy always finds a way. She always brings it back. I love it. So Jackie, I think you're the only one that I haven't spoken to officially yet. How you've done NaNoWriMo more than anybody else here. I'm thinking, and you were an ML. You've had a lot of NaNoWriMo experience previous to this, wins, successes, and also like leading groups through it. So how did this year compare? In those senses? I mean, it's kind of hard to even, I feel bad even saying that, because this year was such a unicorn of years with all of the other things going on. But in general, what are your thoughts about how it went this year and what you got out of it?
Well, I've done it every year since somebody challenged me to try it back in 2013. And maybe because of my competitive nature and stubbornness, I win every year. Sometimes way more feeling it as a way more of a success than others, right?
Yeah.
So, I wasn't really concerned going into it that I would win, which would be writing the 50,000 words. But the last few years, I haven't really been happy with what I've achieved. I've written things that I haven't been able to finish, that I've gotten stuck in and not really been able to find my way out of. And last year, I had moved from Austin to St. Louis. So I was in a new area where I didn't really know anybody in the community. And I participated in some of the stuff. And, it was harder because I just didn't know people. I didn't really feel connected, and I didn't have a way to get to know them ahead of time. Whereas in Austin, we had a Facebook group that went year round, and I got to know a lot of people. I had a lot of friends in the group. So it was harder last year, not really having the community. And I think the only reason I won, really, because I didn't like my project that much either. I liked I liked what I was writing. I didn't like how I was writing it, I guess. But the only way I really won was we had a night where it was like from 5 p.m. till, I don't even know, was it midnight or 11? I mean, it was a big chunk of time where we had like a write-in, like lock-in thing at a library. And I wrote like 5,000 words that night. I think that's the only thing that saved my bacon, because I just really dragged myself over the finish line last year. And this year, I think having conversations before Nano, not just how to succeed in Nano, but about like our stories and planning and what are you writing and talking about it was helpful. And I did some pre-writing. I was like, I have an idea for a story. And I've done this enough times. I don't care if I start a brand new novel from scratch on November 1st. So I did pre-writing. I didn't count those words, but I started my novel. And by the time Nano started, I realized I didn't like the direction. It wasn't working. So by the time November started, I actually had a better project. So all of that made for a more likely success. But I think what really helped was the calls that we had once or twice a week or however often, where we talked about our stories, whether it was the official sort of brainstorming day or we just sort of talked about where we were and we, you know, talked about our progress. That helped me both kind of feel connected to you guys, right? Because we're all talking about it and, you know, like everybody said, you know, being part of the thing, but also helped me sort of refine my story issues. And then, you know, something that we hadn't mentioned here is that we had the Marco Polo, we had a panic room, and then we discovered For the Words, which is, for those that don't know, is a website that basically allows you to do quests where you're fighting monsters by writing words, and that helped too. And so doing all those things and feeling just part of a group, you know, I felt cheered on in a way, but I also, when I get stuck or I'm like, I don't know how to do this or, you know, whatever, there was always somebody to go, well, what if you try this? Or what if you try that? And that's the first time I've really ever talked about a novel as I'm writing it. Like I'm really, I don't want to say insecure about it, but I feel like until it's done, you know, I'm afraid to show it to anybody because it's going to suck until I'm ready for it to be shown off, right?
I totally get that. I've always subscribed to Stephen King's advice in On Writing, where you write the first draft with the door closed, right? And because I'm always fearful of influence and just like, well, I was thinking this and now somebody said that. Now I can't stop thinking about it. What's going on with my story? But yeah, this year I offered brainstorming meetings for all of us. And I was like, well, I got to participate too. So it was a unique experience for me because I'm so used to it's kind of an insecurity for me. I guess it's more like I'm worried that my story will get derailed in a way that I wasn't thinking, and I should have been true to my original thing, but the brainstorming helped me so much.
Yeah, see, for me, it wasn't so much that I was afraid I'd get derailed. I'm always afraid that I'm going to have this idea and it's just going to sound dumb. And until I've been able to expand it and develop it and tweak it and write it and polish it, it's going to sound dumb. And I don't really want to talk about it because it's not done yet, right? Like it's making soup, but you still got hard beans and you know it's going to be great soup, but it's not soup yet, right? So, you know, I mean, if you've got beans and bacon and you know, whatever, it's going to be good. You just don't know yet exactly how it's going to taste. And so, you know, it was a kind of a new experience for me sharing. You know, we didn't share our written words, but sharing the ideas and like talking about this is what my novel's about, and this is what my novel's about, and this is what my novel's about to kind of help us refine that. Yeah. And then I'm stuck. I don't know what should happen next. I think that really helped a lot more than I expected. And it made me feel like maybe I can get through to the end because my biggest thing is trying to finish. Right. And, you know, I haven't finished. I'm only about halfway through the story, but I feel like now, you know, when I get really stuck again, I know where I can go to get help.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the value of having a community. I mean, it's one thing to have write-ins and it's one thing to go to the meetings and have people writing around you and having friends. But then when November 30th rolls around and you've got 50,000 words of garbage or 50,000 words of what's going to be 100,000 words or whatever, you're not done in any way, right? You've still at least got to revise it if you don't have story to still write. A lot of the nano stuff just ends, right? And then you're like,
yes, that's been my
thing. Hardest point of my story. I'm midway through, or I've got a whole bunch of garbage and I got to revise it or whatever. And I don't know what to do next. And I don't know who to ask and I don't know how to do it. Or
that's literally what got me going with the whole stop writing alone thing. Because, you know, when I went to Kathy Heller's podcasting course, I was like, the thing that I need is NaNoWriMo to just keep going. I just needed to keep going. And that's why when I initially launched it, I launched it in April during a NaNoWriMo thing to be like, yes, we'll use this energy, but let's stay together. Let's not disappear from each other's lives on April, you know, on May 1st or what have you, because that's the most disconcerting thing. I too have done, I don't know if you've had this experience, Jackie, or anybody else that's done NaNoWriMo. I've done it multiple years. And then what always frustrated me is that when I would come back, I couldn't find the people that I was like hanging with in previous years. And I'm like, well, we were so cool for a whole month. And then we sort of like,
Right.
people they would give you a Twitter handle or something, but then they weren't really on Twitter. So where did they go?
Well,
And you come back next year and start a new group and it'd be like, okay, by the third year, you're like, you people aren't real.
You've heard me mention,
People are not real.
you know, this longing that I have to have that author group. Like, I just watched an interview conversation with Lee Bardugo and Holly Black, who are two of my favorite authors. I mean, both of them are my favorite authors. And I didn't know that they even really knew each other. And here they are having this conversation where they're old pals. And Lee was talking to Holly about how on one of her books, you know, you sent me the first 60 pages and I just like, write more, you know? And I'm like, wait, she's reading first draft nonsense of Holly's, and like, how do I get in that club, right? And I'll probably never be in that club because they're all at their level and they're far more advanced. And even if I publish 20 novels, they're going to have published 20 more, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I'd like to think that our group is that in the future, right? That we're all going to have the novels and we all know each other and trust each other. So at some point, maybe, I'm not there yet, but maybe at some point,
Happy Campers is
my first 60 pages.
Yeah, we're
right?
the 21st century Inklings, you know, the Inklings, you know, like that was the first big writer group that like blew my mind. I'm like, what are you talking about? That Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were chilling out in a bar? What? You know, because I had been introduced to their series so far apart from each other. And each time, you know, like when I read, you know, The Hobbit and everything, fell deeply in love with that world and kind of like had this, it's not a show hole, like a book hole in my heart until I found Narnia. And then I was like, oh my God, it's like the same. I'm in a whole new world. And then to find out, you know, like years and years later that these guys were buds. I'm like, you jerks. I should have realized that from the beginning, that you were all together and, you know, where are my Inklings? So Happy Campers.
I think this is a really big secret that published authors, they kind of open the secret up a little bit in their acknowledgments, but nobody really reads them but me, I think. So, and then I lust after them because I'm like, oh, look at her naming all these other people. But I think that's something that authors don't talk enough about, is that they have a group of people, and maybe it's just 2 or 3, or maybe it's 10, that they're sharing their ideas with, or they're sharing their writing with, or they're at least being supported in some way by. And they don't talk about it. So we all think when we read this book that this woman or this man wrote this book in a vacuum and maybe shared it with their husband or wife, or maybe shared it with a family member or a friend, but they're not writing in community. You never get that impression unless they're really, really vocal about it.
That's the first question that when I go to the panels, when I go out to the panels, you're right. A lot of times they don't even discuss it there. And so when they open up for questions, I'm like beating everybody down. And I'm like, who are you people? Who are the people that are reading your books? Is it just, you know, like you said, a spouse or what have you, or do you have writers? And this was, you know, I started asking this question when I was first starting Stop Writing Alone, before, you know, we had a group going, but I just was like, I know there's someone and I need you to start talking about it. But I will say that authors do often give the advice of reading the acknowledgements. They advise to read the acknowledgements, especially when you're looking for editing help or who's my agent or what have you, like to always go through there. So it is a great habit to have. Like if anybody is not reading acknowledgements, particularly of authors that you love, or, you know, genres that you love, that is definitely a go-to spot. But it is heartbreaking when you realize like all these people have been writing in community and you're like, where are my people? So we have to empower ourselves to find our people, for sure.
Well, and that's easy because, you know, my people are in Stop Writing Alone.
Right. And Susie, I see you're unmuted. What's up, Susie? Go ahead.
I just wanted to, I mean, it just seems, listening to everyone, that the key here is we're not writing alone anymore.
We are not at all.
We are not writing alone anymore. And we have people we trust to bounce ideas off of, who support us. And that to me is the key.
Yeah.
Is that I know I have all of you and I trust all of you with my words.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's really interesting in listening to you guys, I did ask the same question of everyone, and I got completely different responses of what was the thing of Happy Campers that was important for each person, right? So Chris loved the all the prompts and everything. Jackie really benefited from the brainstorming, you know, and so it's like all different aspects of the community, but we're all there for each other at different times. So yeah, I kind of love that. It's really, really great stuff. And yeah, we are definitely not writing alone. And that's my whole thing with this podcast has always been to, first of all, to do exactly what you said, Jackie, to lift the veil on the fact that people are not writing alone. People that are published are not writing alone. The way, you know, we all want readers in the end, and we do know that there is a certain part of this profession where it's us and the page, and we do have to get our words down. But somewhere in between, we have got to have our people to help us through. And I think that many people get sort of stuck in the bog of that first step because they're not realizing that that's what comes next. And I have seen, I mean, my goodness, I joked around with you guys with this last week that I feel like I don't have to publish a damn thing because I'm going to just sit back and watch everybody else get out there. I have seen so much incredible growth, productivity, people getting out there in ways that, you know, I remember where everybody was at when they got started here, and then like opportunities happening, contests being entered, you know, all different things that I can't wait to see. Books published. What am I talking about? Chris has published a short story, published his book. You know, it's unbelievable. So what I want to do before we just wrap up is if everybody can give us if you have a website or where you want people to come find your stuff to follow you, because everybody here is writing, everybody here is getting out there, and I want everybody to have an opportunity to connect with you. So I'm just going to go in order what's on my screen. So Jamie, can you just tell everybody where to find you and connect with you?
I have an Instagram and Facebook, which is Jamie Angevine Writes, and a website, which is jamieangevine.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter.
Every week she sends us a lovely newsletter. I love Jamie's newsletter, and I'll be putting the links to everything in the show notes. So if anybody just doesn't know how to spell things or whatever, it'll be in the show notes for you. Jackie, how about you? Where should we send everybody to find you, follow you, see your writing?
Well, you know, the best place is jackiedana.com, but I don't have it on. This is a side note to anybody who has websites. You need to have them on SSLs, because otherwise you get this site may be unsafe warnings from Google, which is just, it's infuriating. And I haven't had the chance because I've been writing Nano and doing these other things to fix that. So
it's jackiedana.com, but it's totally safe.
Except that the site might be a risk, because it's not, it's perfectly safe. Or you can find me at J.A. Dana 17 on Twitter, or you can find me on Medium, and all the various writer places, but just jackiedana.com, and just ignore Google's fear mongering.
Safe. It's totally safe. I'll vouch. Amy, how about you? Where should everybody go to find Amy Strong?
So I'm everywhere as Miss Daisy, and I am developing Voice and Pen. So I have an Instagram for Voice and Pen, and started the new year. My plan is to launch YouTube, podcast, and website for Voice and Pen, as well as blog, like everything. With my Kanban board, I am on track to be able to launch all of that July 1st with Voice and Pen, but you can find me now and for future as Miss Daisy everywhere.
Excellent. And for anybody who's not familiar with Kanban boarding, please go to Miss Daisy. She has taken us all down. I've been sharing some of Amy's stuff and some of the stuff from the group on my Instagram stories so that everybody knows that this is the thing that we're currently obsessed with. It's fantastic. Thank you, Amy. Audria, how about you? Where should we send everybody to find you and your writing?
Currently, I am incognito. However, I will
Lovely.
be launching an author brand website and socials in the new year.
Excellent. And we will keep everybody updated. I'm going to come back for that. I like that our cozy mystery writer is incognito. That totally works for me. Chris, how about you?
Well, I have out on Amazon. They're both in Kindle and paperback. You can probably find me most easily there by putting in my name, and Chinsky. The last name is spelled GranCzynski. You are all in the acknowledgments for 50 Ways to Dump the Donald. And you can find me on Facebook, Chinsky Writer, where I host Strange Fiction Saturday Night, which is on hiatus until January. But yeah, pretty much those two places.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will definitely be putting the link. See, guys, this is another reason why you always have to read the acknowledgments. You never know. You might be in them. Thank you, Chris, for that. And Susie, how about you? Where's everybody going to find you and your writing?
Well, I have a Facebook page under an author Facebook page under Susie Taylor Writes. And then my blog is at Sticks and Stones. It's STIX-N-STONEZ.com. That's my blog. And then I also have an author website at Susie Taylor Writes.
Awesome. Great stuff. I will get Tammy's information for you guys. She had to drop out a little bit early, but is there anything else from the crew that you would like to say before I sign off?
I would just say to anybody who's listening who isn't already engaged in some way with Stop Writing Alone, with, you know, the Facebook group or something, and you're just going, wow, this sounds really cool, you know, to either hook up with us, because we'll take you on, or find somebody in your local area or that you like online who's writing, and just like push it a little bit, you know, hey, you know, I've been following your stuff for a while, you know, I'd love to, you know, talk to you more about writing or something, like however it happens. You know, maybe there's a Facebook group for writers like the Ninja Writers or some other group, right? Something out there, Twitter. Find somebody that you can talk to about your writing, and that, you know, you can't maybe do it on the first day. You have to build trust. You have to build that relationship, but find somebody, because if you get stuck, if you get, you know, halfway on or a quarter of the way on a novel, or you write short stories, but you never do anything with them or whatever, having a buddy or having a group is going to make the huge difference. And I think we've really proven that with Nano, and before that with the 3-day novel, that, you know, it's one thing to have writer friends, but when you're actually trying to produce something and actually complete something, it makes all the difference in the world.
For sure. For sure. It sounded like you said, stop writing alone. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, there is this group called Stop Writing Alone that's pretty awesome. But if for some reason, you know, just to be fair, it may not fit everybody.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And, you know,
and
so
I say this all the time.
Find something that does,
Yeah.
right? If you're in Australia,
and that's,
we're not awake during that time, although I probably am. You know, find somebody in Australia.
That's absolutely my point, is that no, I wasn't even saying it as Stop Writing Alone, the brand. I'm saying the point is, in and of itself, wherever you are, to stop writing alone and to find your people. That has always been my thing. I know I'm not for everybody, and everybody's not for me. I am in so many online writing groups that I try to remain active in, because I'm constantly trying to find the right connection. I mean, this is it. We've got a really great group here, but arms open wide for anybody else that is, you know, interested in having that kind of connection, if that makes sense for us. But yeah, you've got Ninja Writers, you've got Scribblers, you've got Writers Helping Writers. These are just Facebook groups. And then don't get me started on Reddit, the hole that I have fallen down this month, and I'm still crawling out of. So many different groups on there. Twitter has groups. I mean, there are so many opportunities. And nowadays, without the the live meetings and everybody being online due to the pandemic, it seems like the doors are wide open for opportunity to make these types of connections. And I think what I have learned throughout this year with the Happy Campers is that all of those times that I lost connection with people in between the year with NaNoWriMo, that was on me too, right? So those people probably needed my connection as much as I needed their connection. So if my advice to everybody would be is if you connected with somebody during the month of November during NaNoWriMo, do what you can to not let that relationship sort of waver. December is a hard month for everybody. So if you can't connect in December, that doesn't mean, just like with Audria, where she had to like stop for 2 days of her writing to get focused on work, it is quite possible that everybody's taking a chill in December, but reach back out to those people in the new year to see if they're ready to reconnect and move forward and be your writing buddy for life. You guys rock. Did anybody else have anything else that you want to?
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and thank
you.
you all for this whole year. I mean, it's really been life-changing on so many levels. So I can't thank you guys enough for helping me show up for my writing and myself over and over again throughout possibly one of the most difficult years of our lives. You know, it's been a very strange experience to have a very difficult year be such a great one in terms of what we have here. So I thank you all for that, because you know that I'm always looking for silver linings.
Well, that was it. And that wasn't everybody from the Happy Campers Club. Hopefully, over time, you will get an introduction to everybody that has been participating this year and beyond. And hopefully, we will connect with you either in the group, on Facebook, wherever it is. It's really been a wonderful experience. And every time the group grows, it just feels better and better. So, yeah, it's been quite a year. In part of the celebration of this year, next week will be, I can't believe I'm saying this, the 100th episode of the Stop Writing Alone podcast. And I want to hear from you. This week, I got to hear from the group that I've been working with intimately all throughout the year, but I still want to hear from the rest of the Stop Writing Alone community. Those of you that I met on write-ins in the Facebook group, those of you that we just chat back and forth, those of you that are listening, but maybe I haven't heard from you yet. So if you could call in to the Stop Writing Alone voicemail, that is 646-907-9607, and just leave a message letting us know where we can find you, where you're listening from, and if you've got it, like one thing that you have gotten from listening to Stop Writing Alone over the time, however long you've been listening. I would love to share your story on next week's celebratory community episode. And to celebrate this, every single person that calls in and leaves a message will be entered into a giveaway for Julia Cameron's brand new book. Now, I don't know if you knew that Julia Cameron's coming out with a new book. Who's Julia Cameron? Well, she is the author of The Artist's Way. You know, I love The Artist's Way with the artist date and, of course, the morning pages. It's a 12-week program to unblock yourself, to really open up your creativity. And Julia is saying that this book, The Listening Path, that's coming out on January 12th, is going to be a continuation of The Artist's Way. It's a 6-week program, probably broken down same way as The Artist's Way into 6 chapters that can be worked through. And one of the things that I want to do in 2021 is get a reading group together to work through the 6 weeks of the listening path. So somebody who calls in next week, all you do is leave a quick little message, say hello. You will win your copy of the listening pad. So you'll be one step ahead of joining me for the read through and really going to the next level. I mean, I love everything that Julia has come out with. I've read The Artist's Way. I've read The Artist's Way at Work. If you go all the way back to episode 2 of the Stop Writing Alone podcast, I was already gushing about Julia and the morning pages. So I am so looking forward to this, and I want to share it with you guys. So again, the phone number is 646-907-9607. If you are super shy and you don't want to record your own voice, you don't want to call in, but you would like to write to me, you can write to stopwritingalone@gmail.com or send me a direct message either on the Stop Writing Alone Instagram account or find me on Facebook and send me a direct message there through the Facebook group. But I'd love to hear from you guys. And I want next week to be a total celebration of the community that is saying, you know what? I want to stop writing alone. Thank you, as always, for listening. Thank you for being here week after week. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful ride. I would not be showing up if you were not listening. So I know that it feels like I'm talking into the ether, but literally, if you are hearing these words, I am thanking you. Have a great week. Happy writing. And I will talk to you next Thursday. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter where I'm at NV_Rivera to find links to our email newsletter. Recording, hosting, editing, producing. It's so much work. Disaster has struck. I finished my coffee. Tell me coffee is coming. ko-fi.com/stop writing alone.